In the words of Scott Loeffler, Bowling Green simply ran out of gas last week in Athens as the Ohio Bobcats got the victory. So Ohio is headed to the MAC championship game against Toledo and BG. Well, they're sitting at home for a few days until they find out their postseason fate. As we welcome in Todd Walker, the voice of the Bowling Green Falcons on the Bowling Green Radio Network. Todd, thank you for joining us tonight.
Hey, Mark, good to talk Falcon football with you anytime.
Like Loeffler said, ran out of gas, but they've got plenty of time to refuel now. Do you just simply take that Ohio game and just toss it away and say, hey, we're 6-6? That's the good news.
Yeah, I think you really have to. When you take the season in a big picture, I think you saw where this program is, but also the work yet to be done. I think you look at the Mid-American Conference season, you see where this team's ceiling was and is. They reached it several times, beating Toledo. They reached that ceiling, but you also saw the floor when things don't go right. 3 losses, none of them were particularly competitive. So Ohio, they were very well prepared, even with their backup quarterback. Very good team, and they were ready to go, and they needed that game. So BG led after 1. Ohio got some things figured out. It turned out at some point in that game, Matt McDonald suffered a concussion. And when you think about how he played that night, it does make sense that he fooled them for a little while, but it became apparent he was not very good, and it just added up to a loss. But yeah, I think the big picture is the thing you really need to focus on, the improvement program, chance for a bowl bid for the first time, 2015, practices, more development, and that's all good.
And as you touched on, the inconsistency is what has plagued this program the last couple of years. They were less inconsistent in their inconsistencies of this season, which is a big step forward for the program as Scott Loeffler continues that upward trend for Bowling Green football.
Yeah, I think what you saw was there were still weeks where they didn't perform well, but in games, the consistency was better. In games when they played well, they sustained that most of the time and didn't really veer from one to the other in particular games. So they also showed great resiliency, both for the balance of the season and in games when they were behind. It didn't mean they were out. The season looked like it was getting away from them. They didn't quit. They kept fighting. And when you look at season, the 6 losses, 5 of those 6 teams are in the postseason. The other was Kent State, who was last year's MAC runner-up and went 5-7, and really was close to being in a bowl game themselves. But all 4 of their non-league opponents are in bowls or were in the playoffs in Eastern Kentucky's case. And of course, the other 3 losses in the MAC we talked about. So on balance, I think this team showed a lot of growth.
If you look at the bowl projections, you can find Bowling Green finding anywhere, which just leads me to conclude nobody knows anything when it comes to the MAC because ESPN makes a lot of those decisions. Where do you think Bowling Green's going to end up, and will there be restrictions because of Scott Loeffler not being able to fly?
Well, I think how coach gets to the game obviously will be an issue he'll have to deal with if indeed his restrictions are still there from the episode earlier this season. I don't know that anybody's really brought that up recently, but even with that, there's enough lead time for him to get where he needs to be. I can tell you that he'll be there if he has to walk, I think. I mean, this is a big deal for them. Personally, I think it's down to 3, and I'll rank them in the order I think of likelihood: Boca Raton, Boise, Myrtle Beach. I think those are the 3. I'm a little biased toward Boca. I'm kind of pulling for that. Boise is a very good bowl, though, and Falcons have played in that game and have played at Boise State a couple of times additionally. But I think that's how I'd rate the likelihood of it.
Could it also be that we're going to have to wait until this weekend to find out if Buffalo becomes bowl eligible, if that's going to impact Bowling Green's bowl fate?
Oh, I think no question that will, because the MAC has to look at everything in a big picture. So if Buffalo does get that win, it definitely changes the whole dynamic. You look at where teams have been recently. You don't want to send them back there usually. You don't want to see a rematch of a team they may have played during the season, et cetera, et cetera. So sure, that'll complicate things, but I think the MAC would probably be okay with that complication to get another bowl team.
So the Bowling Green Falcons are waiting to hear their bowl fate, as we want to thank our guest tonight on College Ball Weekly, Todd Walker, the voice of Bowling Green Falcons on the Falcon Radio Network. Todd, thank you so much.
problem, Mark. Thanks.